yet. Yeah, Jungyang, please join the Twitter space as well, so that folks can see you on the Twitter space, and then I'll add you to the stage there as well. And Wolfram, you already did, and then we'll invite Niston as well. Test. What's going on here? All right, folks, welcome to ThursdAI. Those who are listening to us and those who are joining us live, we're going to get started in just a few minutes as folks are joining us. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all. This is our Thanksgiving special. We're just going to get started in a few minutes as folks are joining us. We have a lot to talk about on this Thanksgiving special, but for those of you who are just joining us while they're, roasting their turkey or waiting for the one racist uncle to join, then for those who are joining us from while waiting for from the holiday table, we're gonna make your waiting hopefully pleasant by giving you some AI news. I got distracted by getting a notification for which I need to remember to turn off my notifications to bring you the show. So I'm going to do this right now. Boom, notifications off. I often get email as well. Let me just go and turn this off. You guys don't need my email notifications here. Just donk. And I will just say, hey, everyone, welcome to ThursdAI. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all. My name is Alex Volkov. I'm the AI evangelist with Wits and Biases. I have with me soon a few co-hosts. Hopefully, we'll have exciting show. All right. So I think we're going to get started in just a few more minutes. Meanwhile, I'm going to get off the maybe camera and just put on just a kind of waiting music for a minute, and then we're going to get started with the show. Let's go. I think I'm just going to get off the camera. So grab a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, and we're going to get started in maybe 2 more minutes. Meanwhile, it's going to be very helpful if you're on the Twitter space, joining us from the Twitter space, or actually the Twitter live video. Yeah, both of them. Why don't you share it with a friend? It really helps the algorithm to pick us up. Lately, there's been some issues with some algorithms. So if you're joining us from Twitter, YouTube, whatever you are, actually we have some folks on LinkedIn as well, please feel free to share this with one person who you know is going to enjoy some AI news on a Thanksgiving holiday, and then we're going to get started in just a few minutes. All right, it's almost time. It is almost time. Happy Thanksgiving, folks. Gobble gobble. I see some folks reacting to the Thanksgiving theme. We're gonna give thanks to many of the AI labs and the, I don't know, probably Jensen as well. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we're definitely gonna do that. All right, folks, it's time. I think it's time. It's time to get started with our Thanksgiving special episode of ThursdAI. Welcome everyone who is joining us on the Thanksgiving special, November 28th of ThursdAI. I think it's time to start the show, start the camera, and welcome to our stage my co-host for today. We're probably gonna have some more. But first, we're gonna get started with the tune, with the opening of, of ThursdAI. As always, you guys know this. This is how we get started. Let's get it going. Woo! Welcome everyone to ThursdAI, November 28th, Thanksgiving special. My name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with weights and biases. You're on ThursdAI. We are live on everywhere pretty much. We're live on YouTube and X Spaces and X Video and on LinkedIn. We have, I think, maybe like 5 people tuning in on LinkedIn from I think 3 weeks ago. We have a very dedicated following on LinkedIn from now on, which is great. I'm joined here by my co-hosts, and for folks who are following on X Spaces who are just listening to us, I'm gonna add a link to you so you can like actually see us live as well. That sometimes helps for folks to like figure out who we are. So I'm gonna do that right now. I'm joined here with two of my co-hosts. Wolfram, welcome. Say hi to folks.
Hello, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, man. You're joining us from Germany, right?
Yeah, right.
And we have Junyang here. Junyang, welcome, man.
Yeah, hi, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, great to be here.
You had a busy week. We're going to chat about what you had. I see Nistan joining us as well at some point. Nistan, I see you. Or I hear you.
Hey, everybody. I'll come on the stream in a bit.
Well, at least we can hear you. And we have a last-minute addition. Hey, man. Yam Peleg is joining us as well. Hey, Yam. Welcome. As well, happy Thanksgiving. It looks like we're assembled, folks. We're across streams, across countries, but we're here for November 28th. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about, like really a big list of stuff to talk about. So why don't we just we just dive in. So obviously, I think the best and the most important open source kind of AI news to talk about this week is going to be, and I think I remember last week, Junyang, I asked you about this and you were like, you couldn't say anything. But I asked, because last week, folks, if you remember, we talked about R1 from DeepSeek, a reasoning model from DeepSeek, which we said, maybe it comes as open source and maybe it doesn't. And I kind of like hinted about, and I asked, Junyang, what about some reasoning from you guys? And you couldn't say anything. So this week, I'm going to do a TLDR. So we're going to actually talk about the stuff that, in depth a little bit later. But this week, obviously, one of the biggest kind of open source open weights, I guess, news is coming from our friends at Qwen, as well as we always celebrate. So one of the biggest things that we get is Qwen releases. I will actually have you tell me what's the pronunciation here, Junyang. What is, I say QWQ or maybe quick. What is the pronunciation of this?
I mentioned it in the blog. It is just like the word quill. Because for the QW you can like qu, and for the Q and you just like the U. So I just combine it together and create a new pronunciation called quill. Yeah.
So we're saying it's Qwen Quill 32B. Is that the right pronunciation to say this?
It's okay. We just call it quill 32B. It
Quill.
is something funny because the characters look very funny. We have a subculture for these things, just to express some our feelings.
Amazing. So Qwen Quill 32B, and it's typed the name is typed QWQ 32 preview. This is the first open weights reasoning model. This model is not only predicting tokens, it's actually doing reasoning behind this. What this means is, we're going to tell you what this means after we get to this. So we're still in the TLDR area. We also had another drop from Allen Institute for AI. If you guys remember, last week we chatted with Nathan, our dear friend Nathan from Allen Institute, about Tulu 3, about their efforts for post-training, and he gave us all the details about post-training. So they released Tulu 3. This week they released Olmo 2. We also talked about Olmo with the friends from Allen Institute a couple of months ago, and now they released Olmo 2, which they claim is the best fully open source language models from Allen Institute for AI. So we're going to chat about Olmo a little bit as well. And last minute addition we have is NVIDIA Haimba, which is a hybrid small model from NVIDIA, very tiny one, 1.5 billion parameters, small model building Qwen and building small LM as well. This is in the area of open source. I think everything here is everything. Wolfram, unless we have anything else that you wanted to cover that I forgot.
Yeah, it's a minor releases maybe when we get to the open source part.
All right.
The two things I put in the channel.
Alrighty. Let me see if I can continue. Yeah, I think, okay, let's go then, because we have a bunch of stuff to talk about. Okay, in the big companies, LLMs and APIs, I want to run through a few things. So first of all, Anthropic released something called MCP. It's something they called Model Context Protocol. We're gonna briefly run through this. It's a kind of a release from them that's aimed for developers. Is a protocol that enables secure connections between a host application like a Cloud Desktop, for example, and local services. A service that you can create, for example, is like Amazon Shopping, for example, if you think about this. So you can basically create connections to an LLM, and they're trying to simplify how an LLM would talk to different applications as a developer. And we've seen some excitement around this for many developers trying to build different ways to connect to an LLM. And we're going to talk about what this means as a kind of generic service as well. If you guys in the comments, if you want to leave us kind of examples of things that you are thinking about for some of these MCP connections, please do. If you built one, definitely talk to us as well. There's also a bunch of new integrations for the ChatGPT macOS app. If you guys remember, a couple of weeks ago, we actually caught this live. I refreshed my macOS app, and there's like, ta-da, there's a new thing. And we discovered this live, and it was very, very, very fun. The macOS app for ChatGPT integrates with like VS Code, etc. And so we tried to run this with Cursor. It didn't work. So now it works with Cursor, a bunch of other ones.
Or did it cut out here?
I can hear you. Nistan, tuk. Yeah. Nistan is live on the Twitter Spaces, and
yeah, it's back now. It's all good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wolfram, do you mind jumping on Twitter Spaces as well as a co-host?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So the next thing I don't know if it's worth mentioning, but you guys know the XAI, the company that Elon Musk is raising another $6 billion for, that tries to compete with OpenAI and Cloud, etc. Did you guys hear that it's going to be a gaming company as well? I don't know if it's worth talking about, but we'll at least mention this. And the one thing that I wanted to chat about is H, the French company H, that showed a runner that looks 3 times as fast and as good as the Claude computer use runner. And we're definitely going to show examples of this video live, because that looks just incredible. This out of nowhere company, the biggest fundraise or the biggest seed round that Europe has ever seen, or at least French has ever seen, just showed an agent that controls your computer that's tiny, looks ridiculously tiny. I think it's like 3 billion parameter, 2 billion parameter or something, and it runs way better than Cloud computer use. Something definitely worth talking about. After which, in this week's Buzz, we're going to talk with Thomas Capelli from my team at Weights and Biases about LLM guardrails. It's going to be fun. And in vision video category, we're going to cover that OpenAI Sora quote unquote leaked this week, and this leak wasn't really a leak, but definitely we saw some stuff. And then there's also a new expand feature that we saw in Runway, and we saw another video model from Rhymes called Allegro TIV2, which is pretty cool. In voice and audio, if we get there in voice and audio, we saw out TTS Vision 0.2, which is a new TTS, a 500 million parameter small TTS you can run in your browser, and sounds pretty dope. Art in Diffusion, super quick. Runway launches an image model. Yep, Runway, the guys who do video, they launch an image model that looks pretty sick, and we're definitely going to look at some examples of this. And Comfy UI Desktop, for those of you who are celebrating something like this, Comfy UI now is runnable with desktop. And there's a bunch of tool stuff. But honestly, I can talk about tools, and there's a cool thing with Google Generative Chess Toy. I can show you this so you can show your folks in Thanksgiving and gonna impress them with a generative chess toy. But honestly, instead of this, I would love to chat about the thing that some of us saw on the other side of the social media networks, and definitely we'll chat about this for the past 24 hours. So chat, I guess, for the past 24 hours, on Blue Sky, we saw a little bit of a mob going against the Hugging Face folks, and then other friends of ours on kind of from the AI community and the anti-AI mob on Blue Sky. So we're going to chat about that and hopefully give you our feelings about what's going on about this world. And this is a pro AI show, and when we see injustice happens against AI, we have to speak out against this. And I think that this is mostly what we're going to cover this show, unless
this is where I could insert the two things I have. One is a tool, which is the AI video composer, which allows you to talk to FFmpeg, which is a complicated command line tool, but very powerful. And so you have a UI where you just use natural language to control the tool. So that is one tool. Maybe we get to it. If not, just Google or ask Perplexity.
No,
or
we'll drop
anything.
we'll drop it in show notes. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the best part. Okay, and Echo Mimic version 2 is also an HeyGen Synthesia alternative for local use, which is also a great open source local runnable tool.
What do we call this? Echo Mimic?
Echo Mimic. Echo Mimic.
Yeah.
V2.
Echo Mimic 2. All right. We have a special guest here that we're going to add, Alpin. Hey, Alpin, welcome. Feel free to stay anonymous and don't jump. We're going to start with Open Source AI, and then we're going to chat with you briefly about the experience you had. Can you unmute and say hi to folks? So we'll test and see if we can hear you.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, man. You've been on the show before, right, Alpin? You've been on the show.
A few times, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
you've been on the show
nice
before.
to be back here again.
Yeah. So, Alpin, we're gonna chat with you soon, right? We're gonna start with open source. We need to get to Junyang and talk about reasoning models. So feel free to stay with us, and then I definitely want to hear about some of the stuff we're gonna cover after open source. We're gonna cover the anti-AI mob over there at the
juicy stuff,
guys. Yeah. Alrighty, folks, it's time to start with the corner we love the most. Yeah, let's dive into this. Let's dive in straight to open source AI. Open source AI, let's get it started. Right. So hopefully my sound is not cutting off. I feel like my sound is cutting off, folks. Wolfram?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, cool. It feels like maybe it's for me. Maybe this is on my end. Okay, folks. So open source. This week, we're gonna let me cover the other two things super quick before we dive in. All right. So I wanna briefly cover the Heimba paper super quick because we're gonna get the least interesting stuff out of the way so we can focus on the main course. NVIDIA released Heimba 1.5 parameters. Heimba is a hybrid small model from NVIDIA. We talked about hybrid models multiple times before. We have our friend of the pod, LDJ, here. He loves talking about hybrid models. He actually brought this to our attention in the group chat. we talked about, you guys know the transformer. We love talking about the transformer. Haimba specifically is a hybrid model between transformer, and I think they're using hybrid attention with Mamba layers in parallel. They claim they're beating Llama and Quen and Small LM with 6 to 12 times less training as well. Let's look at their X. So this is what they're showing. This is the table they're showing. They're showing some impressive numbers. The interesting thing is this is a table of comparison that they're showing, and in this table of comparison, the comparison is not only evaluations. The comparison they're showing is also cache size and throughput, which I like. It's kind of like, do you guys know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of when you have a electric vehicle and you have a gas-based vehicle, or like, standard combustion engine vehicle, and then they compare the electric vehicle and acceleration. It's like, oh, our car is faster, but you kind of get this by default. You kind of get the acceleration by default with all the electric vehicles. This is how the model works. This is how those model works. So for me, when you compare kind of like hybrid models or non-transformer based models, Mamba based models, the throughput speed up is generally faster because of it. But definitely the throughput is significantly higher. Tokens per second is significantly higher. So for comparison, for folks who are listening to us, just so you'll hear the comparison, the throughput for this 1.5 billion model is 664 tokens per second versus a small LM 238 tokens per second, or something like Quen 1.5 at 400. So 600 versus 400. The training cost in tokens, they say this was 1.5 trillion tokens versus Quen at 18. I don't know if Junyang, you want to confirm or deny the 18 mentioned here that they added. Sometimes they say different things, but yeah, definitely the highlight of this Haimba thing, and this is from NVIDIA, by the way. I think it's very worth like shouting out that this specific thing this model comes from NVIDIA. They specifically mentioned that the cost and outperformance of this model comes at like 6 to 12 times less training, which is very impressive. What else about this model? Performance-wise, MMLU at 52, which is lower than Quen at 59 at 1.5 billion parameters. GSM 8K, we know the GSM 8K is not that interesting anymore. I think at this point we're not looking at this like too much. What else should we say about this model? GPK is pretty interesting at 31. GPK is usually knowledge versus something. Yeah. Anything else to say about this model? Yeah, you have anything to say, Nistan? Anything to say about the small models, about the hybrid model specifically? I know that like our friend LDJ said that like this seems like the first actual model that competes apples to apples, because usually when we compare hybrid models specifically, those usually people say that those are not like necessarily one-to-one comparisons between hybrid models and transformer models. Maybe Junyang, if you wanna, you got compared. Wolfram, go ahead.
I didn't want to say something.
Sorry. I heard somebody chime in. I wasn't sure.
I was just gonna say that from NVIDIA, we've heard these claims before, and they didn't quite turn out that way. So I'm going to start off a little bit more skeptical on that end. Also from the Mistral Mamba Stral, that one was not very performant. Like it seemed like it was going to be good for long context stuff, but the runtime wasn't that good as well. So yeah, I'm going to give this one a test, because again, the promise of like hybrid SSM models is that it can do better in longer context, and it can run faster. So it is worth testing, given what they're claiming. But again, on MMLU, it didn't do that well. But yeah, overall the numbers do look great actually for what it is. But I think we do need to do further testing on this, whether it is practically that good, because I'm not sure how well it's going to hold up after you just throw like 32K of context of it. Like, is it going to remember all that? But yeah, this on paper, this does look like it's one of the first ones that is apples to apples.
Yeah. All right. So anything else to say here? Yeah. The architecture. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, about the architecture, I tweeted about it. It is, I think it has extreme potential, and it might. I just by looking at the attention maps from the paper, like just a glimpse is enough for you to see that they really do solve something really profound with many of the models that we have today. Basically, I'm really simplifying here, but basically, when you look at the attention and versus Mamba, they act very differently in terms of how they process the tokens, sliding window ones, you could say, and of course, self-attention is like global to everything, but Mamba is not exactly global, it's sequential, and sliding window is also not exactly global, but it's not the same sequential, it's like everything to everything, but with the window. So what they did is combine the two, and you can really see the difference in attention map of the trained model. So it's not exactly the same as just hybrid Mamba attention models that we all saw before. There is a lot to this model, and I really want to see one of those trained for like at scale, like a large one on a huge data set, because I think it might be an improvement to either. Just by looking at the way the model learned, but you cannot know until you actually try. I tweeted about it just like briefly, so if you wanna go and look at, I'm just pointing out that go and check the paper out, because the architecture is unique. There is a reason the model is for its size very performant.
Yeah, we're gonna add your tweet. We have Eugene Che. Eugene, you wanna the maintainer of RWKV, also a transformer alternative. Eugene, you came in to comment about this Heimba thing for somebody who also competes with transformers, somebody who knows from this. Eugene, you're on the line? Eugene?
I think he's listening.
Oh. Maybe, Nistan, can you ask Eugene if he can come up? Because maybe he can't hear me.
Yeah, Eugene, feel free to request and come up, because we can't hear you, but he might just be listening too. So.
Oh yeah, I proved them. All right, so okay, if Eugene want to come up and chime in, we can do that, and if not, I think we will move on, and then we'll just point folks to Yam's. Actually, no, we can bring Eugene if you guys will wait for a second. He's always a bubbly personality. Let me just send him a link super quick, and we'll bring him on. As you guys know, bringing people on super quick is something we love to do. Come in. All right. So meanwhile, we will talk about the second thing super quick that we have to talk about. Folks from
the Twitter link, the Twitter Spaces finally worked.
Oh, there you go. All right, Eugene, you want to give us a comment super quick? We need to move on in like 2 more minutes, but we would love to hear from you about the Heimba architecture. Eugene?
Yeah, actually among the hybrid folks, right, we are actually, hello?
Yeah, we can hear.
Among the people who work on the hybrid models, right, we are actually really excited about it. Yeah. Alternative and hybrid is kind of car to the gasoline, right? And it's not how to arrange it. And this is something that we are all experimenting. It's like trying to figure out whether do we want to put a gas engine in the front or the gas engine at the back or in the middle. So that's why you see all of us doing different arrangements in terms of how we mix, how many percentage transformer, how many percentage non-transformer. And to all this is just always just exciting to just get more data points to like as we figure out a solution. So good news for it.
All right, Eugene, thank you. You broke up a little bit, so hopefully we will be able to complete some of this train of thought, but I couldn't hear a lot of it, unfortunately. All right, folks, time for us to move to the second thing. the folks at LNAI surprised us with another release this week, and they have, as always, they say, hey folks, we divide the categories of open source to not open source at all, then somewhat open weights maybe, and then fully open source. The folks who release the checkpoints, the data, the training code. I will say this. They used to release weights and biases logs as well, and they stopped. So if somebody listens to the show from LNAI, as I know they do, folks, what's up with the weights and biases logs? We know and we love them. Please release the weights and biases logs again. But they released Olmo 2. Congrats, folks, for releasing Olmo 2. Let me actually do the clap as well. Yay! Olmo 2 is they claim the best fully open language model to date, and they show this nice graph as well, where they released two models, Olmo 2 7B and Olmo 2 13B, and they cite multiple things to attribute for the best performance here. Specifically, the training stability. They ran this for significantly longer before. They cite some of the recipes of what we talked about last week from Tulu 3 methodology, the kind of the state-of-the-art post-training methodology from Tulu 3 that we've talked with Nathan last week, specifically the verifiable framework thing that we've talked about. Multiple other technical things like rate annealing and the data curriculum, and obviously they're focusing on their data. They have their OHM's selection of tasks on which they compare these models, and the breakdown that I told you about that they do is kind of the open weights models, partially open models, and then fully open models. So this is the breakdown that they have in the area of open weights models. They have like Llama 2 13B and Mistral 7B, for example. They put Quen in there as well, so Quen 2.57 and 14. And the partially open models, they put Zamba and StableLM, and the fully open models, they put themselves and Olmo, and Ember 7B and Olmo 2 beats all of that category with some nice average of stats. They talk about pre-training and a bunch of other stuff, and kind of the instruct category specifically with the Tulu kind of recipes. What else can we say about Olmo that's very interesting for folks before we jump into Quen? What else can we say about Olmo? The fact that like the thing about the fully open source, we always mention this, is the data set. We always talk about the data. They released all of the data sets. So Olmo Mix was released, Dolmino Mix was released, the SFT training data, post-training data set was released as well. Yeah, folks, comments. You can also try this model at playground.lnai.org. I've tried it. It's interesting. It's not like, look, you know, the best about this is the best among open source. Obviously, it's not the best at generally with closed source data. You can get like more significantly better than this. But comments from folks about Olmo?
Yeah, it's not multilingual. They said that there's only English, but they are working on putting that in, I think, in another version. But yeah, it's a truly open source model, not just open weight. So big applause for them. Releasing everything, that is a big thing, and I always appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, 100%. All right, folks, it looks like we got Eugene back. Eugene, talk to us about Heimba.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just saying that as someone who works on Transformer Alternative, right, it's actually really awesome to get the data point because we all haven't decided what's the best arrangement, like what's the percentage of Transformer versus non-Transformer. Is the non-Transformer layers in the front or the back? It's like you say the car and the car scenario. It's like the electric car. Do we even know if we want the electric engine in front or the back? and these are data points that we love to test to just like find out more and I appreciate what NVIDIA is doing as well, and looking forward to more research in this space.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, and feel free to stay. The more the merrier. This is like a Thanksgiving kind of pre-party for all of us. The more the merrier, folks. If you're listening to this only and you're not like on the live stream, I encourage you to go and check us out, because like we're also like showing stuff. We're like showing the papers. We're like, you know, we're waving. We're like showing turkey, whatever. We're having fun. All right, folks. I think it's time to talk about the main course. We just ate the mashed potatoes. Let's eat the turkey for open source. In this week open source turkey dinner, the reasoning model, the first ever reasoning open source, we got Quen Quill, right? Quen Quill?
Yeah.
Yes, Quen Quill 32B preview. The first open source. Let's go. Let's go. The first open source reasoning model from our friends at Quen. We have Junyang here, Junyang Justin Lin, to talk to us about this release. Folks at OpenAI released this. They worked for their ass off about O1. We released a couple of months ago. Then the folks DeepSeek released R1 that they just released it. They promised to give us maybe at some point. The folks at O1 did not release the reasoning. So what you see in O1 is the reasoning being obfuscated from us, so we can't actually see how the model reasons. R1 gave us the reasoning itself, but didn't release the model. And so now we have a reasoning model that you can actually download and use. And unlike Reflection, this model actually does the thing that it promises to do. Junyang, how did you do it? What did you do? Please give us all the details as much as possible. Please do the announcement yourself. Thank you for joining us, Junyang from Quen.
Yeah, thanks everyone for the attention and for the appreciation. And Junyang from the Quen team, and we just released the new model for reasoning, but we just added a tag that it is a preview. Yeah, it is something very, very experimental, but we would really like to receive some feedbacks to see how people use it and to see what the internal problems there really are. Yeah, it is called Quill. It is something very interesting naming, because we like to see that we first called it like Q1, like things like that, but
Nice.
we think it's something too normal, and we'd like to see there was something connected with IQ, EQ. Then we call it QQ, and then we found out, well, Quen with a W there, and then we found a very interesting expression because it looks really, really cute. There is a subculture in China with the text expression to express the feelings. So it is something very interesting. So we just decide to use the name, and for the name, for the pronunciation, it is just like the word Q, because I combined QW, the pronunciation of QW, with U together, and it's just so cute. Yeah, something beside the model, and it is actually a model which can reason before it reaches the final response. If you just try with our demo, and you will find that it just keeps talking to itself, and it's something really, really surprising for us. If you ask it a question, it just keeps talking to itself to discover more possibilities as possible. So well, and it sometimes will lead to some endless generation. So we have some limitations there. So we mentioned the limitations in the almost the second paragraph, which includes endless generation. But it is very interesting. I don't say it is a really, really strong model, something like competitive to O1 or out competing R1. It is not simply like that. We show the benchmark scores, but it is something for your reference to see that, well, maybe it is at this level. And then if you really check the model performance when it process like mathematics and coding problems, it really thinks step by steps, and it really discovers more possibilities. Maybe it is a bit like brute forcing, just like discovering all possibility. If you ask it 1 + 2 is equal to what, and it discovers a lot of possibilities, but it sometimes finishes, well, can finish some very, very difficult tasks. So I think you guys can wait for our more official release, maybe 1 month or 2 months later. We'll make sure the next one will be much better than this preview one, but you can play with it. It is something really interesting, very different from the previous models.
So first of all, a huge congrats on releasing something that like everybody, it looks like piqued interest for like tons of folks. Absolutely. Second of all, it definitely thinks, it looks like it's like, actually this seems like this. You can see the thinking. Like we're actually showing this right now for folks who are just listening, and I'll just read you the actual kind of ice cube question that we have, that somebody places 4 ice cubes, and then at the start of the first minute, and then 5 ice cubes at the start of the second minute. How many ice cubes there are at the start of the third minute? We should probably have prepared like a turkey-based question for this one. But basically, the answer is 0. All the ice cubes melt within a minute, and the answer is 0. And people know the answer is 0 because like ice cubes melt faster than a minute. But LLMs start going into math and shit. Like just to be clear, O1 answers this question. It understands the answer is 0. Quill does not. But the reasoning process is still pretty cool, and compared to like other models, like you can see it thinking. It's like, let me set up an equation. Oh, actually, it's not correct. Now the equation is asking for this and this and this and this, and it goes like, this is confusing. Let me read the problem again, and so it tries to read the problem again. This feels not like just spitting tokens. So Junyang, like, what could you tell us, like, what's the difference between like this and training a regular Qwen 2.5? So as far as I saw, this is based on 2.5, correct?
Yeah, it is based on Qwen 2.5, 32 billion, the instruct model. Yeah, we have tried a lot of options. Maybe we will release more technical details later, but I can tell you something that we mostly simply do some work on the post-training data because it is actually based on our previous model. So we did not change the pre-training because we are actually very confident in our pre-training because we have trained it with a lot of tokens. So there should be some knowledge about reasoning there. And in Qwen 2.5, we also have some text reasoning relative data in the pre-training process. So we just try to see that if we can align with the behavior of such reasoning. So we have some very, very simple supervised fine-tuning, and we find that while it can generate things like that, we have done a bit like RL stuff, and we also have done something like IFT rejection fine tuning, so we can add more data from it. And there are a lot of techniques, just like self-aligned. We use the base language model to use in-context learning to build samples for us to just build something like that make the model that can reason. And we found that it's really surprising. We did not do very, very complex stuff, but we find that it has this behavior. But we still find that there is still much room in the reinforcement learning from human feedback, because we found that if you add some RL, you can improve the performance very significantly. So we have some belief that maybe if we have done some more in process neural modeling, LLM critiques, and also things like building more nuanced data for the multi-step reasoning, the model will be much better. Yeah. But this one is interesting. You can keep talking to it. It keeps talking to itself. Just talking about some strange thinkings, and sometimes like, wow, maybe I'm wrong. I will check the question again, and maybe I'm wrong again, and then do it again and again and again. And sometimes it generates too long because we have some limitations in long text generation. I think all models have this problem. So when it reaches maybe some bound, and it will turn into some crazy behaviors, it just never stops generating. Yeah.
So just to make sure,
we
like,
just
folks,
mentioned this limitation. Yeah.
Just to make sure folks understand, this is a preview. This is not like an official release. You guys like, hey, this is a preview. This is a test of you guys. You guys like trying this out. Like, folks should give feedback. Folks should try out. Like, maybe fine tune also on top of like.
Yeah.
There's definitely like, we're trying this out. This is the move.
It's like ChatGPT is a research preview. It's not exactly preview. It beats the benchmarks on so many problems.
Because we would like to make it a funny stuff to make people happy. It's now Thanksgiving, and people are always expecting models from us, and they're just talking that, wow, where's the reasoning model or things like that. Yeah. So we showed this one to you, and you can play with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Jan Wolfram, folks, comments about the reasoning model from Qwen.
Oh, I have a lot of comments, but you first.
Yeah. I don't know if you can hear me.
Maybe
Yeah. Go ahead.
some
Go ahead.
issues.
There's just a delay, but we're good.
Yeah, I just want to say it's like ChatGPT is a research preview. It's like it's a really good thing. It's a really good model. Seriously. So I mean, it can be a preview, but it's extremely powerful. How did you guys train this? I mean, what's the data? How did you generate it? Can I just create data that looks like a one and fine tune it's gonna work, or like? Give us some details. Like it's a really hard thing to do. I mean, it's really, really, really successful. So how did you make it?
Give us some details if you can. I'm saying
If you can.
Don't let Yam
Sure.
you into give some
Sure.
details that you cannot give details. But hey, it looks like we may have lost Jungyang for a bit with some connection issues. But while he reconnects, we got.
Maybe he can't. Maybe he can't share details. So
They pulled the plug.
Yeah. Let's see. I think we're back. Jungyang, and meanwhile we have Nistan back online. And Wolfram, what's your? I saw your take. Let's take a look. You did some testing for this model as well, right?
Yeah, and I just ran the Ice Cube prompt, and on my run it got the 0 correct. So that is a bit of a randomness.
Oh, you did get correct.
Yeah, it was fun because it wrote over 10,000 characters, but in the end it said, okay, so confusing. They all melted 0.
Yeah.
So that worked, but of course you have to run benchmarks multiple times. I did run the MMLU Pro computer science benchmark twice. And what is very interesting, also here, it generated much more tokens than any other model. The second highest number of tokens was GPT-4o, the latest one, which was 160,000 tokens for the whole benchmark. And here we have over 232,000 tokens it generated. So it took me 2.5 hours to run it. And it's an 8B model, a 32B model at 8-bit in my system where I was running it, because I have 48 gigabyte VRAM, so you can run it locally. And look at it; it's placed above the 405B Llama 3.1. It's above the big Mistral. It's above the ChatGPT latest and the GPT-4o from the most recent one.
So just to recap what you're saying, on the MMLU Pro benchmark, this is a model that you run on your Mac or whatever PC, and it beats Llama 3.5 405 billion parameter on this benchmark because it's reasoning and it's smart. It runs for longer, and it uses those test time compute, inference time compute scaling laws that we talked about multiple times. It runs for longer and it achieves a better score. This is like the excitement. This is the stuff. Jungyang, now that you're back with us, could you answer, or at least some of Yam's question? If you couldn't hear this before, I would repeat this for you. How? What does the data look like? Can you just like come up with some O1 stuff to the extent of what you can tell us? How does this is getting achieved to the extent that you can say? No, Jungyang, you're still muted, look like. At least for me.
You need another question.
No,
He's not allowed to say that.
Muted completely for me, I think.
Maybe his own model.
No, I can see him speak, but yeah.
We can also ask his model too.
Yeah.
Isn't there an AI that can lip read the lips?
No, he has a whole language model. Like, you can ask the model. You can talk to the model as well.
Yeah. By the way, welcome, Nistan. Jungyang, we cannot hear you for some reason at all. Just like microphone cut off completely.
It's still cut off.
Yeah.
But I tried it. It got the Martian rail train launcher. It got it perfectly on first try, and I saw that it did take it 3 tries. So I use this as a standard question on most models. Is if you're going to launch a train from the highest mountain in the solar system, which is on Mars, and you want to accelerate it at 2 Gs, so still comfortable. How long would that track need to be in order for you to get to orbital velocity, and in order for you to get to leave Mars gravity well? And it's a very good question, because there's so many steps to solve it, and you can just change it to, you can say 2.5G, and that completely changes the order of the steps for that the model has to solve. So it's unlikely to be in the training data, and it got it perfectly. It's this one. It's the new Google preview. Even Sonnet takes like 2 or 3 tries often to get the right answer. So yeah, the model worked, and I had the same thing as Wolfram. It did put out a lot of tokens, but again, it's pretty fast to run locally. So,
folks, it's a good model. It's for a test preview for something that was released as a first like open weights reasoning model. We are very impressed. We're gonna give Junyang like one more attempt here. Junyang, I see you on the spaces, and you as a speaker, maybe you can unmute there and speak to us through to the spaces while we try this out. I will just tell to folks that like you can download this model. It's already on Ollama. You can just like Ollama install Quill or QWQ. It's already on Open Router as well. You can get it on Open Router, so you can like replace whatever you use like OpenAI. You can replace and put this model in there. You can try it out in Hugging Face. This is where we tried it just now, and yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to have this. I'm pretty sure that many people are already like trying different variations and different like fine tunes of this model, and it's just like going up from here. Like to get a open model, 32 billion parameters that gets. What is the score? Let me take a look. The score is, I think it gets 50 on AIME. It's ridiculous. Anybody try this on ARC challenge, by the way? Did you guys see in your like tweets or whatever the ARC challenge? Anybody try to run this model on that and try? I would be very interested, because that's a big prize. It's a very big prize.
I'm quite sure someone's trying right now. You shouting that out.
Pretty sure somebody's trying right now.
They could use the 72B version of it. Maybe that gets even better. Probably does.
Yeah. They're probably training a bigger model than this right now. All right, folks. So with this, I think that we've covered pretty much everything that we wanted to cover with Quill. And I think, yeah, the one thing that I wanted to show, let me just show this super quick before we move on to the next topic that we have, is this scaling kind of thing. We saw pretty much the same thing from DeepSeek, and then we saw pretty much the same thing also from OpenAI. The kind of the scaling confirmation, the scaling law confirmation, the next scaling law confirmation, test time compute or inference time compute works, which basically means that the more thinking, the more tokens, the more time you give these models to think, the better their answer is. We're getting more and more confirmation for this kind of Noah Brown, thesis that these models actually perform significantly better when you give them more tokens to think. This is incredible to me. This is like incredible, because not only will we have better models with more scale, even though some people claim a wall has been hit, no wall has been hit, but also we now have these models that can like answer better with more tokens, and this is like another confirmation from this. So Quill 32B is now here. You can now run a 405B level models, at least on MMLU Pro, like Wolfram here said, on your computers. And shout out to our friends from Alibaba Quen for releasing these awesome models for us as a Thanksgiving present. So Junyang, you're back with us. Let's see. Maybe you're back.
I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you finally. Yes.
I don't know what happened.
It's fine.
It's just that some network issues. Yeah.
I think that let's try this again. So maybe last thing as we're gonna try, from what you can tell us, how does the work on this look like? Is a lot of it synthetic? Is a lot of it RL? Could you give us like a little bit of give us a hint of what's gonna come in the technical release for this, and also what can we look forward to in the upcoming? Are you maybe working on a bigger model? Like, give us give us something for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. For the reasoning steps, I think the data quality really matters, and we think that it may split the steps more, make it more nuanced, make it more small steps. It can reach the possible answers with higher possibility, which means that the machine may think in a different way from the human being. The human being may reach the answer very, very directly, but sometimes for a reasoning model, it may reason to explore more possibilities. So when you label the data, you should pay attention to these details, and this is a part of it. And now we only have done some work on mathematics and coding, and especially mathematics. And I think there's still much room in general knowledge understanding. I found that Wolfram just tested it for the MLU Pro, but we actually did not strengthen its performance for this kind of benchmarks. So I think for the scientific reasoning, there's still much room for it to do it. And something surprising for us is that we found that it sometimes generate more beautiful text, more poetic, something like that. I don't know why. Maybe it is because it reasons. So I think it may encourage creative writing as well. A reasoning model that can encourage creative writing, that would be something very interesting. I also found some cases in Twitter that people find that, well, it sometimes generates text more beautiful than Claude's 3.5 Sonnet created. So there's still much room for a reasoning model. Yeah.
Very interesting. So just to recap, folks found that this model that is trained for reasoning gives more poetic writing. That's very interesting. All right, folks, I think it's time for us to move on. But
just one
yeah,
quick
go ahead,
comment.
go ahead.
It's also very good in German. I tested it in German as well. So even if it may not be the focus, if you are multilingual or another language, try it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's something not that difficult for us because the Quen instruct model is multilingual, and it is actually, I think it is now good at German. Yeah.
Quen is multilingual, is very good at German. All right, folks, I think that it's time for us to move on a little bit, and now we're moving to less of a fun conversation, but I think we should talk about this. So just a heads up, after this we're gonna have this week's buzz, but I don't have a category for this. But it must be said. So as you know, ThursdAI is all about positivity. We talk about AI every week to kind of highlight the advancement. We highlight with positivity. We get excited about every new release, every new, like, whatever. We also recently, and now we have, we're on YouTube as well. And the reason it coincided well with some of the folks in the AI community moving over to Blue Sky. Let me actually first say hi to my colleague here, Thomas. I'm going to pull you up on stage as well. So welcome, Thomas, as well. Hey, man, welcome. Thomas is my colleagues for the past year from Weights and Biases. Welcome as well. You're more than welcome to join us as well, because you're also on Blue Sky. And so a bunch of the community recently started seeing whether or not there's a new place over at Blue Sky for the ML community. I saw a bunch of ML people over there as well. I see Wolfram over here has a little butterfly. So you all who are joining us from Twitter or X Spaces, for example, you've probably seen a bunch of your favorite AI folks post just a blue butterfly and maybe follow them towards the other social media platform due to your political preferences, whatever they may be, which is completely fine. That's all good and well and fine. So I started cross-posting to both, and I'll show you how my screen looks like recently. This is how my screen looks like. I scroll here, I scroll here, I scroll on X, and I scroll on Blue Sky. This is what my life looks like. Yes, I'm on both. Because I want to make sure that I'm not missing any of the news that I want to bring to you. And also Zenova, our friend, right? He posts everywhere. And I see the community bifurcating. I don't like it, but I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. This is not what I want to talk to you about, not the bifurcation. I don't mind the bifurcation. We'll figure out something. We're on YouTube as well, so the folks from Blue Sky who don't jump on Twitter X community, they can still join the live chat. What I want to talk to you about is this thing that happened where a bunch of folks from Hugging Face just joined Blue Sky as well, and one of the maybe nicest people in from the Hugging Face community, Daniel. I'm blanking on his last name. Nisto, maybe you can help me out. Daniel van Strijn. Daniel van Strijn. Basically did what he thought was maybe a cool thing. He compiled the dataset. You guys know we talk about data in open source and Hugging Face as well. This is like in the spirit of the open source community. We talk about open datasets. I have a thing here. This is my thing. When we talk about somebody releasing open source datasets, we have a thing, we clap, right? And so he compiled a dataset of 1 million Blue Sky posts to do some data science. This is like what Hugging Face, and put it on Hugging Face. Just to mention one thing before, unlike Twitter, which used to be open, then Elon Musk bought it and then closed the API, and then you have to pay $42,000 a year. $42,000 a year. Yes, this is the actual price. $42,000 a year. This is the actual literal price for the API. Unlike Twitter, which used to be free, Blue Sky is built on a federated algorithm. There's a fire hose of API. You can apply to it, and then you can just like drink from this fire hose for free. This is like the whole point of the platform. So Daniel connected to this fire hose, drank from it, and compiled the dataset of 1 million posts. Put it up on Hugging Face, open source, and then got death threats. Death threats. He got death threats for this thing. People told him that he should kill himself for this act where he compiled data from an open fire hose of data that is open on purpose. What the actual fuck? And when I saw this, I'm like, what is going on? And so in less than 24 hours, I'm gonna just show you guys what this like looks like. Okay, this is on the left of my screen, and the folks who are not seeing this, you probably, I'm gonna maybe pin. Yeah, let me just do this super quick, so you guys who are just listening to this, please see my pinned tweet as well. Because this is some insanity, okay? And we have to talk about this because it's not over here. He compiled a 1 million public posts Blue Sky Firehose API dataset, and then it got extremely viral to the point where, like, I don't know, it's like almost 500 like reposts, reskits, whatever it's called. And then the amount of hate and vitriol in replies that he got from people in here, including like you should kill yourself comments and like death threats and doxing threats, etc. Many people reached out directly to like Hugging Face folks. He became maybe number 2 most blocked person on the platform as well. And all of this, people reached out to the Hugging Face community. Basically, in less than 24 hours, he basically said, I removed the Blue Sky data from the repo. I wanted to support the tool development for the platform, recognize this approach, violated the principle of transparency and consent. I apologize for this mistake. Which, okay, fine. I acknowledge his position. I acknowledge the fact that he works in a he works in a company. And this company has lawyers, and those lawyers need to adhere to GDPR laws, etc. And many people started saying, "Hey, you compiled my personal data without, the right for removal, etc. Without the due process." Blah blah blah. Those lawyers came. There's a whole thing there. And then our friend here, Alpin, who's a researcher of his own, connected to the same open fire hose of data, and collected a dataset of 2 million posts. That's twice as many as Daniel did, and posted that one, and then became the person of the day. Alpin, you want to take it from here? You want to tell us what happened to you since then? What your 24 hours look like?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's been quite the experience being the main character of the day on Blue Sky, and well, obviously, I'm not showing my face for very obvious reasons.
No.
I have received quite a few threats because, unlike Hugging Face employees, I am not beholden to a corporation, so I didn't really back down. And I probably received hundreds of death threats and doxing attempts. But can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. You are good.
what happened.
You are good. We can hear you. Maybe he cannot hear us, but we can hear you. Alpen? Test.
Maybe he's getting DDoS now. Who knows?
Yeah.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you all this time. Alpen, we can hear you. We can hear you. All right. So while Alpen hears us, maybe, or maybe he's getting DDoS all this time, I can pick it up from here.
Okay, I think I might just join from the Twitter space.
Yeah. You're good now, though. So
yeah, if you can hear us, you're good. But if you cannot, then he will just join us from Twitter Space. I can pick it up from here. Alpen posts, and he has.
What do they say, if I may ask? Like the people.
You want to see some of the comments? I can.
I don't.
Yeah. I don't understand what people want. Like,
can we show some of the comments? I don't know if it's like.
I don't know if some of them are appropriate. To be honest, we're
streaming on YouTube, and YouTube will literally take the stream down if we like repeat some of them. So I would rather not. But if folks are following us on X does not have this level of like care. So folks who are like adding us on X Space, definitely go and see the pinned tweet on the X Space. I compiled some of those. They're nasty. Like literally. I can. How should I say? I can repeat. I will not repeat some of them, but yeah, the basically telling them to go kill themselves and do some nasty stuff. We have Alpen rejoining us, but basically, yeah, Alpen, you're with us. You're back with us in audio form.
Okay. Yeah, good to be back. I guess that wasn't a good idea. For some reason, my connection just started going haywire for some reason.
Yeah.
Well, so just to reiterate what you said, the Firehose API is completely open. It's a good analogy with the name because it's like a fire hose. Anyone can use it. So they've also threatened me with litigation, but I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but there was a court case back in 2022, HiQ Labs versus LinkedIn, where HiQ Labs was scraping public accounts from LinkedIn and using it for some commercial purpose. I don't remember, but they did actually win in court against LinkedIn. And what they were doing was slightly even more illegal because LinkedIn doesn't have a publicly accessible API.
Yeah.
And they have terms of services specifically against that sort of scraping. And because of that, the ruling overturned later and they lost it. They lost the claim, but it did set a precedence that if the data published on publicly accessible platforms could be lawfully collected and used, even if terms of service purported to limit such usage. But I never agreed to such a term of service when I started scraping or copying the data from the Firehose API, because first, I didn't do any authentication. Second, I didn't provide a username when I did that. So anyone could have done that technically with the AT protocol Python SDK. It's like you don't even need to sign in or anything. You just connect to the thing and start downloading.
Yeah, this is the platform is built on the ethos of the open web. The open web is you connect and you read the data. This is the ethos of the open web. When this is the ethos of the open web, when you post on this platform, whether or not the TOS is saying anything, when you don't need to authenticate, the understanding of the people should be, regardless, and I understand some of the anger when the people discover, oh shit, my thoughts that I posted on this platform so far are being used to like whatever train, whatever. Like I understand some of this. I don't agree with them, but like I understand how some people may feel when they discover like, hey, my thoughts could be collected, blah blah blah, and somebody posted like a nice thread, but the platform is open completely. Going from there to death threats, this is like where I draw my line. Alpen, like the next thing that happened is what I want to talk to you about. You're getting death threats, you're getting dox attempts. I couldn't find your post today. Like what happened?
Well, for some reason, Blue Sky decided to terminate my account instead of the ones issuing the death threats. Very interesting chain of events. But they claimed that I was engaging in troll behavior, whatever that means. And for that reason, they just, like, it wasn't even due to mass reporting that happens on x.com, right? They specifically emailed me with very like human generated language where they told me that I was being a troll. I think I posted it on my Twitter account too. And yeah, they just assumed I'm trolling. And what's funny is there's been screenshots floating around of similar mod messages, just giving people a slap on the wrist for much worse things, like things we can't even talk about here, right? So very strange, very silly situation overall. And another thing I wanted to mention, a lot of people were bringing up the GDPR and all that because of like personally identifiable information. But if you go to the data set, all we have is the post text, the timestamp, the author, and the author name is just a hash, it's not the full author name, and the URI. So there isn't really much to link people to their specific posts. And there isn't even a location tag. So I'm not sure if it fully applies with GDPR, but I'm not a liar anyways. And the thing is, the data or their posts were published on a platform that is explicitly designed for public discourse, right?
Yep.
And the decision to share sensitive information on a platform like this lies with the user, not the observer, and via the observer in this case. And by the very nature of public platforms, individuals that post like content like this, they have to bear the responsibility that their information is accessible to anyone. And I don't think my data set like alters this reality, because it just consolidates information that was already available for everyone. And I guess there were also people were asking for an opt-out option, and the Hugging Face CEO Clem also made an issue on the repo about this. And I did provide a very straightforward opt-out process. If someone wants to remove the data, they can just submit a pull request to remove the specific posts that belong to them. But also, they have to accompany it with a proof of authorship. They have to prove to me that the post that they're removing belongs to them and is not a malicious request. So I guess I've covered all grounds. So I'm not sure what people are worried about.
So I'm just showing to the folks who are listening. I'm showing an email from the moderation team at Blue Sky. Blue Sky account you control, Alpendale Blue Sky Social, was reviewed by Blue Sky content moderators and assessed as a new account trolling the community, which is a violation of our community guidelines. As a result, the account has been permanently suspended. They didn't even give you the chance to like, hey, delete this and come back to the platform. Literally permanently suspended. So the folks who are like saying, hey, you are going to be, delete this and come back, or the folks who are like threatening death threats are not there. Right. What can we say about
Very
this?
silly.
Well, it's ridiculous, absolutely. And the fact that Hugging Face account, your account, Daniel's account became the most blocked accounts on the platform in the past 24 hours, more so than some like crazy manosphere accounts, just like is absolutely insanity. The fact that most of these anger people are like anti-AI completely, and the whole issue about like consent, whatever, most of them don't even appear in the data set, by the way. Like some people checked on the fly, Zeophone and I, like we did some basic checking. Many people didn't even appear in the data set. The fact that the absolute silly fact that none of them understand the Barbara Streisand effect on the internet, and the fact that there's like 5 data sets right now. Many of them collected the people who reacted to these specific posts and collected the data set of the people who reacted to these specific posts, and like people just don't understand how the internet works. That was just like ridiculous to me. So Alpin, I personally think that you did many of these people also a very good service as well, because at least some of them now realize how open internet works, despite the being very upset with the fact that this is how the open internet works. At least some of them are now like realizing this. I commend you on like the bravery and standing against this like absolute silliness and not backing down. And
Happy to serve. Yeah, so Another small thing I wanted to add was I've received a lot of threats about me getting reported to the EU, but what I find really ironic is that earlier this year, the EU funded a research for collecting over 200 million Blue Sky posts with a greater level of detail. So clearly the EU is fine with this. So I don't know what's the problem here, once again.
Yeah, I saw this. Yeah, there's a way bigger thing. The last thing I saw about this, and then maybe we'll open up for folks, and then I would love to chat with my friend Thomas, for whom it's late, and I invited here, and I want to be very mindful of his time as well. So thank you, Thomas, for being patient. The last thing I say about this is that this sucks for open source. From the very reason of, if you're open and public and good-hearted about this, like, hey, folks, here's the data in the open. You can look at this data and you can ask for your shit to be removed. You get an angry mob of people threatening death against you and asking your lawyers to, like, literally people asking, like, hey, was Daniel fired? Like, what the fuck? Meanwhile, this is an open fire hose, and all of the companies in the world probably already have all this data. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, OpenAI has been already training on Blue Sky. Like, why wouldn't they? It's open. Literally, if you want to train, and Thomas, maybe here's like a little entry to what we're going to talk about. If you want to train a toxicity thing, there's now a very good place to go to and like look at toxicity scorer. I can show you where you can go to to train the toxicity scorer. Like, why wouldn't you go and collect this data? It's free. Like, literally, it lies on the internet. Nothing in the TOS. Like Alpin said. Even I went to the TOS of Blue Sky. Literally, it says over there, we do not control how other people use your data. Like, literally, that's what it says on the TOS. So yeah, I'm just like, I'm very frustrated against this. I want to speak out against this, like, absolutely like ridiculous behavior. I don't think that this. So I don't think that how the people reacted on the platform speaks against the platform itself. I do think that the way the moderators acted out against Alpin's account and the removal of account permanently banned speaks completely against the platform. This is stupid, and we should speak against this on the platform itself if we think that this is a place for the community. That's where I stand, and I wanted to share this publicly. Super brief comments, folks, and then we'll move on to this week's boss.
Yep. There was a link in his message from the moderator that he can reject it and get a review appeal. Yeah. So I hope that I hope he gets the appeal through. That is important.
Yeah, Alvin, if you will, please email them with an appeal and tell them about the multiple death threats that you received and the fact that you did not mean to troll. Yeah.
I reported every one of those messages, by the way, and anyone who does it is probably a good thing.
Nisten, I know you have thoughts on this. I would love to hear.
We need to better educate people to not go after the ones on their side. I mean, a lot of the open source devs do this stuff because they want everyone to have like healthcare robots that no single corporation owns. They make this data public because people want to democratize the technology for everyone. So it doesn't become like authoritarian and like a single source of control. And to see that they prioritize just people's anger and feelings versus being objective about it. Whereas, so in this case, the public forum dataset is public domain on purpose, and this is what drew people to the community in the first place, because they felt like Twitter was becoming too political, single-sided, and we didn't like that. And a lot of people moved to, because they saw Blue Sky as a much better democratized alternative to all of this. And so that's really disappointing, because like these are the people on your side, and now the two nicest, most contributing open source devs that we know are more hated than like someone like Andrew Tate. Like that just makes no sense at all. Like the out of the 5 most blocked accounts, 2 of them are like the nicest people we know. So what is something is pretty off. And I'm also worried that in the AI community, we are in a bit of a bubble and not quite aware of what people are being communicated, like are being shown how this stuff works, how open source works. Because I'm pretty sure from their point of view, they're like, oh, here's another company just took all of our data and is just gonna train this porn bot with it, and there's nothing we can do about it. But it's not like that. Not a single company can own this data. It is public domain data. They can't sue anyone else over the data. It's public domain in a public forum. You're supposed to have civil discourse, because then the AI can also have civil discourse and be reasonable and be like aligned to humanity. So now you have a bunch of people just giving death threats, and they're okay because they're just angry. So you can tell someone to go kill themselves just because you're angry. And yeah, so that's not good. Like, they're just not good. You should probably yeah, anyway, so there is something for us to do as well. Like, we need to communicate better. Like, what does open source do versus what having a single company own all that data and have it as their property mean? Because I feel like most of the general public doesn't really understand this.
Yep. Taking
so yeah, that's it. I was just okay, just really quickly, sorry I went on too long, but after going through war in the Balkans as a kid, I didn't think people would be getting death threats for an open source data set. This is just completely beyond
it's unhinged. It's absolutely unhinged.
Yeah, this is just completely off.
Unhinged.
Just one thing. Those people even think that now the thing is over. So the data set has been removed. Okay, it's done. But you can get a new one anytime. The platform hasn't changed. They have to realize that.
Funny you'd mentioned that, because they started blocking me for the explicit reason of, like, the users started blocking me for the explicit reason of stopping me from scraping their posts, like, as if I need my account to do that.
Yeah, I think that there's like a lot of misunderstanding of like what's actually like happening and how, which is fine. I completely empathize of people's misunderstanding of technology and thus fear. I get this. I get the visceral reaction. I get. I don't like multiple other things about this. I don't like the absolute like horror mob and the death threats. I don't like the platform reacting as it did and like blocking completely. Those things don't make sense. All right, folks. Unfortunately, though, we do have to move on to better things, and I'll give my other co-hosts like a little 5 to 7 minutes off to go take a break. Meanwhile, we're going to discuss this week's buzz. If you know anything about ThursdAI, you know that we're brought here by Weights and Biases. This week's buzz is a category where I talk about what happens in Weights and Biases this week. And so for this week, I have a guest here to talk about this week's buzz. And so we're going to get into this. Actually, I have a way to connect what we just talked about to the thing that we're going to talk about with Thomas. So I will first introduce this week's buzz, and then then after this, stay tuned, because we're going to talk about the big companies APIs, and there's a bunch of very interesting things to talk about. So stay tuned. Obviously, folks, guests on stage, don't go anywhere, but I'm going to remove you from stage for a minute. All right, Thomas, are you ready for this? I don't think you saw this. Are you ready for this week's buzz?
I'm ready.
I think you're going to like it. Welcome to this week's buzz, a category at ThursdAI where I talk about everything that I've learned or everything new that happened in Weights and Biases this week. And this week I have a colleague of mine, Thomas Capelli, from the AI team at Weights and Biases. We're now the AI team. This is new for us. Thomas, how do you want to introduce yourself super brief for folks who...
Yeah, quickly.
You've been here before, but maybe one more introduction for folks who don't know who you are.
Yeah, I'm Thomas. I work with Alex. I'm in the AI apply team at Weights and Biases. I train models. I play with models on API. And I try to make my way into this LLM landscape that is becoming more and more complex. Try to avoid getting roasted on the internet. And yeah, trying to learn from everyone. Thank you for the invitation.
So you're going by Cape Torch. I'm going to add this as well on X as well. I don't know what you're going off as on Blue Skies.
The same.
Blue Skies.
Yeah,
same Cape Torch. So I invited you here, and I think let's do the connection from the previous thing as well. A lot of toxicity we talked about just now. A lot of like toxic comments as well. And we both work at Weights and Biases on Weave. Weave is our LLM observability tool. I showed off Weave multiple times on ThursdAI, but I will be remiss if I don't always remind people, because we have a bunch of new folks who are listening, what Weave is. Weave is an LLM observability tool. So if you're building as a developer anything with LLMs on production, you need to know what's going on, what your users are asking your LLM, or what your LLM gives as responses. Because sometimes imagine that your users are, let's say, copy pasting whatever comments people just gave Daniel and Alpin, and they pasting it to LLM to do categorization, for example. And some of these like very bad things that we just talked about are getting pasted into the LLM, and some of the LLM responses are maybe even worse, right? So maybe your application doesn't handle this. Maybe your application responds even worse, and you want to know about this. And the way to see those, some developers just looks at logs, and we have a tool that is way nicer, and this is just some of the things it does. But this tool is called Weave. It traces everything that your application gets as an input from users and also outputs. But that's not all it does. So it also allows you to do evaluations. And recently, Thomas has been working on multiple things, specifically around scoring and different things. Thomas, you want to maybe give us a little bit of
I think you described pretty well. As I know, you have showed Weave and the product we have been working for a while, multiple times here. But I would say it's mostly core feature is actually building apps on top of LLMs and having observability. And for standard code, we have unit tests, and for LLM-based applications, we need like actual evaluations on data we have curated. And we have been doing this in the ML world for a while, but like as we are merging with these software engineers that maybe don't know how to like integrate this randomness from the LLMs in their applications, you need to actually compute evaluations, and like that means gathering data, still labeling a lot of stuff manually to have high quality signal, and then iterating on your prompts and your application that's making API calls with scores, with metrics that gives you confidence that we are not like screwing up. And as you said, like I've been working recently on we added a bunch of scores, default scores to Weave like a month ago with Morgan. We spent like a week building those. And recently we have been like, looking at stuff like toxicity and hallucination and context and bias detection. And there's multiple of them that are LLM powered, like the ones you are showing on the screen right now. Like you have an LLM that it's actually prompt in a certain way, and you maybe build a system that requires like a couple of LLM prompt with structured output to actually get the scores you are expecting. And then this thing should be able to give you a good value of the scoring, if it's hallucinating, if it's a toxic. Actually, the model providers like OpenAI and Mistral and Anthropic, I think, have an API exactly for moderation. So you can use also that, and they're actually pretty good and fast and pretty cheap compared to the completion API. And we have what I've been doing this week and the last couple of weeks, where I've been trying to like build really high quality, small, non-LLM powered scores. So example, you want to create a toxic detection system. What can you do? Like, you could find a small model that it's not an LLM, or it was an LLM a couple of years ago. Now, like BERT, we don't consider BERT an LLM. I've been fine-tuning the BERT task and checking like this new hanging face, small LM2 models, trying to adapt them to the task. Like good challenge, good engineering questions, like there's plenty of high quality data set on hanging face that people have been creating from multiple places, from Reddit, and like these have been serving us to actually build this high quality classifiers that are capable of outputting and flagging the content that we're interested in.
So here's what I'll say for folks, just to kind of like highlight what we're talking about. Weave itself is a toolkit that you can use for both these things. You can use it for logging and tracing your application, which is kind of what it looks like right now. You basically add these lines to your either Python or JavaScript application, JavaScript type of application, and we will help you track everything your users do in production. Separately from this, you want to continuously evaluate your application on different set of metrics, for example, or scoring them on different set of metrics to know how your LLM or your prompts are doing, right? So you guys know that, like, for example, before on the show, we talked about, hey, here's this new model, the Quen Quill, for example, and you know that Wolfram, for example, tested it on MMLU Pro. Those are generic evaluations. MMLU Pro, those are evaluations that somebody built specifically for something big. Look, those are a set of questions that somebody built something big. Specific scorers for your type of application, something that you build for your type of applications. And then people asked us as Weights and Biases, like, hey, okay, you give us a generic toolkit, an unopinionated toolkit, but can you give us some opinion? Can you give us some opinion? And basically, this is what like Weave Scorers is. This is like an additional package that you can install if you want to, like additionally, right? Like Thomas, help me out here. But you can just
the
like,
ones,
add
the ones
this.
we're building right now, they're not yet there. They will be probably in a certain future.
Yeah,
we need to test them correctly. And as we're an experiment tracking company at the beginning, we're gonna like want to share the full reproducibility. Like this is the data, this is how we train them. Like there's different versions. These are the scoring metrics we get. So you like have confidence that they work as expected.
So this is to me very interesting, right? So I came in as a previously software developer and now as like an AI evangelist. Like I came in from like this side and I meet all these like machine learning engineers, experiment tracking folks who are like, okay, now that we've built this like LLM based tool, observability tool, many people are asking us to do what Weights and Biases does on the model side, on the Weights and Biases side. Like, hey, use everything from your like immense knowledge of tracking and doing experimentation to bring this over to the LLM side. Okay, now that you have all this data, now that companies are tracking all the data, how to actually like do experimentation on the front side. Thomas, last thing I'll ask you here before I let you go briefly is about guardrails specifically. So there's this concept that we're going to talk about. We're going to keep talking about this called guardrails. So we're talking about scorers. Scorers are basically the way to kind of check your application.
Just a model. Like I would define like score is just a model. It takes an input, produce an output.
Yeah.
And it could be simple. It could be complicated. Like a scoring, the simplest scores could be accuracy, like if the prediction is equal to the label. And like a complex score could be like an LLM powered score that check that the context you retrieve from your RAG application, it's not like the response is not hallucinated or is factually consistent with the retrieval context.
So like hallucination-free scorer, for example, is one score for folks who are listening. Like whether or not the response that your RAG application returned has hallucinations in it, or
and it's very detailed, and you will probably need to refine all of this for your specific application because everyone has slightly definition and slightly different needs for their application. So yeah, you may need to tune everything, but this is like a good starting point.
So
yeah, I find very interesting that you mentioned guardrails. I would say like a guardrail is also a model that predicts, but it needs to be really fast, and it needs to be it needs to like take actions, maybe like change the output. Like any of these scores don't change your output. Like they will compute a score, but they will not change the output. Like if you have a PII guardrail, it should, I don't know, redact stuff that shouldn't pass. So it should change the output, like the payload you are getting from the API. So like guardrails are more like online, and these are more like offline.
So that's a good boundary to do, and I think we'll end here. But this is basically an inception for going forward, folks. I will tell you about guardrails specifically. It's something we're getting into, and I'm going to keep talking about guardrails specifically because I think that this is a very important piece of developing LLMs in production. How are you making sure that the model that you have online is also behaving within a set of boundaries that you set for your LLM? Obviously, we know that like the big companies, they have their guardrails in place. We know because, for example, when you talk with advanced voice mode, for example, you ask it to sing, it doesn't sing. There's a boundary that they set in place. When you develop with your LLMs in production, your guardrails, kind of the only way to build them is by prompting, for example. There's other ways to do them, and we are building some of those ways, or we're building tools for you to build some of those ways. And like Thomas said, one of those guardrails are changing the output, or like building ways to prevent from some of the output from happening, like PII, for example, or there's like toxicity detection and other stuff like this. So we will be talking more about guardrails. Thomas, with this, I want to thank you for coming up to the show today and helping us with scorers and discussing about Weave as well. And I appreciate your time here, folks. You can find Thomas on X and on Blue Sky under Cape Torch. Thomas is a machine learning engineer and the developer AI engineer as well. He does a lot of great content. Thomas, thank you for coming up. I appreciate you. He also does amazing cooking as well. So follow him for some amazing gnocchi as well.
Thanks,
Thomas, thank you. Folks, this has been this week's Bugs, and now we're back.
Grab dinner. See you guys.
See you, man. And now we're back to big companies and APIs. All right. We are back from this week's Buzz, folks. Hopefully you learned a little bit about scorers and guardrails. We're going to keep talking about guardrails, but now we have to move on because we have a bunch of stuff to talk about, specifically around big companies and APIs, which had a bunch of stuff this week as well. I want to talk about the leak. You guys want to talk about the leak this week? OpenAI had a big... Oh my God, oops, something big happened. But nothing actually big happened. But like to some extent, this was a little bit big. So at some point this week, a frustrated participant in the OpenAI, how should I say, test program for Sora decided to quote unquote leak Sora and posted a Hugging Face space where you could go and say, hey, I am, I want this and this and this, and you would see a Sora video generated. And we can actually show some videos, I think. This is not against any TOS, I believe. This wasn't actually a leak. What do you guys think? Well, did you happen to participate in the bonanza of Sora videos, Wolfram or Yam? Did you see this?
I saw it, but I didn't try to go to the link.
No. So basically, some very frustrated person from kind of the creative minds behind, like OpenAI is testing Sora behind the scenes, decided to like leak Sora. The leak wasn't actually the model leak like we would consider a model leak. The leak was basically a Hugging Face application with a request to a Sora API with just the keys hidden behind the Hugging Face. We're showing some of the videos. I'm gonna also add this to the top of the space for you guys as well. The videos look pretty good, but many of the folks who commented, they basically, excuse me, please, they basically said that compared to when Sora just was announced, where all of us were mind blown completely. Now the videos, when you compare them to something like Kling or some of like runway videos, they're pretty much kind of on the same level. And they look good. They still look very, very good. Like look at this animation, for example. It looks very, very good still. And apparently there's like a version of Sora called Sora Turbo. So these videos are like fairly quick, but like folks are not as mind blown as before. Like, yeah, some of the physics looks a little bit better than like Kling, etc. But it feels like we've moved on. And this is something that I want to talk to you guys like super quick. We're following every week, right? So like we get adapted every week, like every, like, the reasoning model from R1 blew us away, and then R1 came out, and now we run this on our models due to Quill, right? So we're used to getting adapted to this. The video world caught up to Sora like super quick. Now we can like run these models. There's one open source one like every week. these videos don't blow us away as they used to anymore. And why isn't OpenAI releasing this at this point is unclear, because if you could say before, well, elections, you could, like, you can put Donald Trump and Kamala Harris in there. Now, like, what's the reason for not releasing this and not giving us this thing? Anyway, yeah, this video is pretty cool. There's one video with like a zoom in and somebody eating a burger. So yeah, leak, not leak, I don't know. But thoughts about the Sora Kling? What do you guys think about the videos and the non-releasing things, folks? I want to ask Nistan, what do you think about those videos? Do you have a chance to look at them?
I was going to say, by the way, is my mic okay? I was going to say the exact same thing you did, that it's just been so long now, what, couple of months since they announced Sora?
I think it's more than a couple of months. I think like half a year, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it's over half a year that so much happened that we're no longer impressed. And I'm just trying to be mindful of that things are still moving fast. And they haven't stopped moving. Like, we've seen a whole bunch of models start to get close to this now. I mean, it's still better. I would say it's still better than most of what's come out in the last 6 months. But yeah, we're getting pretty close. I think they haven't released it mainly because of like weaponized litigation. That's the main thing holding them back. And yeah, companies in other countries don't have that problem as much, so they were able to advance more, like while still being respectful to the brands and stuff. But yeah, I think the main reason is people are just going to try and like nitpick any kind of attack vector to sue them for it. So that's probably why.
Yeah, everything OpenAI will do will get attacked. That I fully agree with you on this. Yeah. Speaking of, let's see, do we have anything else from OpenAI? I don't believe so. Yeah, the other one thing that I wanted to show super quick is that the new ChatGPT now is also, yoink, I'm going to show this super quick on the screen, is also now supporting Cursor. So now the new ChatGPT app is supporting the Cursor app. So now you can ask what I'm working on Cursor. And if you hover this, you can actually see all of my, including .env. That's not great. You can actually see my secrets, but you can ask it. You can ask it about the open queries. And so, why would I if I have Cursor? That's the question, right? Cursor supports O1 because I have unlimited O1 queries on ChatGPT, and whereas I have like fairly limited queries for O1 in Cursor. And generally, that's been pretty good. That's been pretty cool. You can ask it about the stuff that you have open. There's a shortcut. I think it's Option Shift 1 on Windows, and you can enable this. And basically, you then start chatting with the open interface in O1. We tested this a couple of weeks ago, if you guys remember, and I found it super fun. I don't know if you guys used it since then, or for those who use the Mac version of ChatGPT, I find it really, really fun. So folks in the audience, if you're using the Mac OS app and you are connecting this to Cursor or to the terminal, for example, unfortunately, I use the Warp terminal and they still don't have Warp. They have iTerm here and other things. If you use PyCharm or other JetBrains, they also start supporting those. But I specifically use Cursor, and now there's a support for Cursor, support for Windsurf, which is another thing that we didn't cover yet. And I heard amazing things. And hopefully over the Thanksgiving break, I will have to have a chance to use Windsurf. But yeah, this is from OpenAI, and we were waiting for some more news from OpenAI, but we didn't get one. So hopefully the folks at OpenAI will get a Thanksgiving break. Just a small reminder, I looked a year ago. If you guys remember the Thanksgiving episode we had a year ago, we were discussing the Control-Alt-Deletement weekend where Sam Altman was fired and then rehired. That was the Thanksgiving episode of last year. You guys remember this? Last year, we discussed how Sam Altman and Greg Brockman were shanked, and the coup from Ilya. You guys remember? It's been a year. It's been a year since then. This was the Thanksgiving last year. Yeah, it's been a year since then. Which, by the way, next week is the 2-year anniversary of ChatGPT as well. So we probably should prepare something for that. So that's on the OpenAI news. Let's super quick talk about this. At some point, there's this. The sayings from Space Uncle is they need to be studied in an encyclopedia. Somebody tweeted, I don't understand how game developers and game journalists got so ideologically captured. Elon Musk quote tweeted and said, too many game studios are owned by massive corporations. XAI is going to start an AI game studio to make games great again. And I'm like, and please unmute if you're muted and laughing, because I want to hear, and I want the audience to hear that like both Pico Creator and Nista are just like laughing out loud at this. Is XAI with all of their like 200,000 H200s like the fastest ever growing massive Memphis supercluster? Are they going to build games? Like what are they really going to actually have a gaming studio in there? Like we know Elon is like I don't know, the best Diablo game player in the world right now. I don't know how fuck
he's fourth or 20th or
he was 20th. I think he's like at some point he got #1 recently or something. We all know he's a gamer. Kudos. Like I'm not making this up. Like I'm really have no idea how the fuck you can be like the best Diablo player while doing all these other stuff. And I get the sentiment of like, okay, let's make games great. But turning an AI company into a games company, how the like what? I just wanted to mention this. Yeah.
Metaverse.
What I love most is just the massive corporation, XAI with billions of dollars of funding, is going to be not a massive corporation.
Yeah, this is not necessarily AI related necessarily, but you know, we are expecting big things from XAI, specifically around Grok 3. Hopefully December. That's the date that they've given us. They have 100,000 H100s turning away and building something. We know that this was like announced. We know that Elon promises and doesn't deliver on time, but delivers at some point anyway. We know that they have very, very good folks behind the scenes. We know this. Like we've seen this before. We know that infrastructure is something they're building out. They're building out enterprise infrastructure for APIs. Like we've seen the AI API layer building out. We've seen the kind of the infrastructure, enterprise infrastructure for the billing layer. We've seen all this like getting prepared. Like we've talked about this. We're getting to the point where X is going to be another player competing another player versus, you know, the Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, etc. Grok 3 is going to be something significant to contend with, and like the amount of GPUs are there. It's just like, is this a sidetrack? This is basically my question.
Well, so Uncle Elon tends to be like very impulsive, as we've seen. So if he spends a lot of time on something, he's gonna start getting obsessed with it. So there's that. But in order to have a gaming service, you will need a lot of GPUs, and I'm pretty sure at this point, if they want to do cloud gaming or streaming, they probably have more GPUs than PlayStation. Like they might actually just have more right now. So they're like, we can probably support that, and so much for the Department of Government Efficiency. Now we're all just going to be streaming games. But there's also another lining to this. Is for a while, for the last 10 years, there was an article about 10 years ago that the E3, I don't think that's a thing anymore, but the E3 gaming conference had a SpaceX booth over a decade ago. And SpaceX was actively recruiting, I think to quote, it was programmers of physics engine. And the rumors were that they were going after the ones who made the Steam Havoc 2, like the one you see in Portal, and the ones that worked on the Unreal Tournament physics engine. And this was over 10 years ago. And those people, those programmers were recruited by SpaceX. So like when you see like the Falcon Heavy, like 2, 3, 4 rockets just like go dance in midair and land like they're in a video game, is because like the people that made the simulation very likely worked on game engines. So it might be a hiring angle from him, or it might just be Uncle Elon's playing a lot of games and he just wants.
I mean, there is an angle for gaming as a playground for training like AGI, whatever. Like OpenAI obviously had, you know, like trained robots in this area. We saw many papers for like agents running wild in like a game constrained environments. There could be an angle there for sure. This doesn't feel like this. It feels like an impulsive, like, hey, make fucking games great again. All right, moving on. Unless we have another comment here, moving on to. I really wanted to discuss super briefly the model context protocol from Anthropic because this kind of blew up, but it's not ready yet. I saw a comment from Simon Willison. You guys know Simon Willison, a friend of the pod. He'd been here multiple times. Basically, he covered this super quick. Anthropic released this new protocol, which they hope to standardize. And by standardize, they mean like, hey, let's get around this. Okay, so let's talk about a standard in the industry. Right now, the OpenAI SDK for Python, that's kind of a standard way to interact with LLMs. Pretty much everybody supports this, including Gemini. I think the only one who doesn't support this is Anthropic, actually. So in Python, if you want to interact with any LLM, literally any provider in LLM, including OpenRouter, like Google, OpenAI themselves, like pretty much everyone else, like including Together, like all of those, you can replace one line of code in the OpenAI kind of like API. OpenAI Python SDK, you just put a different URL in there, and then this is the standard way to talk to LLMs. I think for TypeScript, JavaScript, it's pretty much the same. So it looks like Anthropic is trying to do something like this to standardize around how LLMs are connecting with other applications. So right now, just a minute before, I showed you how ChatGPT is connecting to like a VS Code for something. They built those integrations themselves. So you would install a specific extension in VS Code, in etc., and that extension that they've built talks to the ChatGPT app on the macOS that they've built, and they kind of built this connection for you. This is not what Anthropic wants to do. Anthropic wants to create a protocol that like other developers can build on their own to allow the LLM to talk to any application, and you as a developer, I as a developer, other developers can kind of build those communication layers, and then whatever LLM, in this case, this is the Anthropic Claude desktop app. This could be the ChatGPT app, could be the Gemini GPT app, Gemini app, etc. Could talk to other applications. What those other applications are? Anything on your desktop, anything at all. So they build this kind of like a first standard communication via JSON RPC, and I think they're building other ways and other servers. I think this is a way to summarize this. Basically, this is a open preview. Nistan, you wanna take another crack at like trying to recap this, or Yam or Wolfram? You guys wanna give me your thoughts on this super quick? As far as I understand from Simon, this is like still robust and still in flux.
I think this might end up being a much bigger deal than we first expect, because it is an interoperability layer, and as a developer you will have to learn this. It is annoying at the moment that while proposing a standard, Anthropic is not showing willingness to abide by one, which most people chose, and even Google was forced to support the OpenAI standard. So if you want people to come with your standard, to abide by your standard, you also have to show willingness to abide by others. So that's not going to work here until Anthropic just supports a plug-and-play OpenAI API. So I should put their models in. But that aside, the criticism aside, this is pretty important. So I've been doing some of this stuff and just trying to do it with basic JSON. So I think it's very good. And yeah, it's pretty hard to know. Am I on Mac? Am I on Linux? Am I on a phone? What's the LLM going to talk to? What does this app even want me to do? Do I have to emulate this on the screen and then click on it? Can you just like give me a JSON so that I can click on it? So it's a lot easier for me. And this will also apply to websites and web apps after, to offer some kind of JSON RPC. An RPC is just like an API for people. It's just an application programming interface. It's something you query, like you write like a curl to this IP, and here's my API key, and give me, or here I'm going to give you this stuff and give me this stuff from the database or whatever. So this is actually extremely important, because you can apply to to web apps as well, and it's a way to manage multiple sessions. So I think it's a pretty big deal, even though I am annoyed at Anthropic. I think this is going to become much more important because it saves a lot of bandwidth. Instead of you having to run a visual language model to show the whole screen, to run it on an emulator, to have to click on it and move around, and it's like so compute intensive. It's like, can you just give me like a JSON API so I can just like do a constrained output to a JSON and just output 3 tokens and be done with the whole thing? So I think it'll become a big deal.
So in the spirit of the holiday, thank you, Anthropic, for trying to standardize things. Standardize often, sometimes is annoying, but often leads to good things as well. Folks should try out the MCP and definitely give them feedback. But yeah, they should also abide by some standards as well. It looks like the industry is standardizing around the OpenAI SDK, and they maybe should also, it would help.
But it's a new thing what they are doing, because so far we usually had the LLM as a part in an agent pipeline where you have another process called the LLM with some input. And here we have the LLM going out to get the input itself. So I think that is also in the agent context very important. And more integration is always better. But of course, it's a new thing. We have to develop all those servers, as I call it. So a lot of reinventing the wheel, I guess. We'll see if it can really persevere.
Yeah, one example that they highlight, and Simon talked about this as well, is that if you have a database, a SQLite database that sits on your computer, the way to have, so you guys know we talked about tool use, for example, like via API, those models can respond with some idea of how to use your tools, and you as a developer, you are in charge of using those tools. You basically get in response a structure of a functional call, and you're like, okay, now I have to take this and then go to an external tool and use this. This is connecting this piece forward. This is basically allowing this LLM to then actually go and actually use this tool, basically like getting a step forward. And one example that they're showing is a connecting it to a database, allowing this LLM to connect to a database via a SQLite like MCP server, the model compute protocol server. MCP is sorry. Yeah, so connecting via this MCP server, you basically allowing LLM to read from this database itself without like returning a call, and then you are in charge as a developer to go and like do the call, return it responses. So basically trying to allow LLMs to connect to different services. Yeah, Nisa, I think I agree with you. With more work in here, this could be big.
It could literally make it like over 1,000 times more compute efficient to automate something on a screen, because instead of using a visual language model frame by frame, you can just have a JSON.
Let's talk about
like literally over 1,000 times less compute to do it. So I'm gonna take a longer look at it as well.
So speaking of automating things on the screen, let's talk about the next thing that we want to talk about. H Company AI. This is the next thing in big companies and APIs. H Company from France. This is another big company. So we know Mistral is from France. Some, I guess, DeepMind, some folks is from France as well. There's also Fair in France from Meta. Now France is kind of like positioning themselves to be one big kind of hub from AI as well. H Company fundraised, I think, 250, I have in my notes. Yeah, 220, one of the biggest seed rounds, $220 million, like one of the biggest ones in the history of like French seed rounds a while ago. And they just showcased their Runner H. Their Runner H is, they're competing with Claude on speed of computer use. Ooh, apologies for this. Let's take a look at how fast kind of they're claiming they're opening a browser, going to recipes, and providing recipes for something. On the right, we have Claude, computer use. Claude is basically, hey, open the browser. On the left, they already like pulled up a browser and already extracting data. So basically, they're claiming a speed up of maybe 2 to 3 times over Claude computer use. And they're basically showing while Claude still pulls up the Firefox browser, they have already completed the task, extracted the data, and already like responded to the user. They're showing steps by steps comparison, which I don't think is necessarily in apples to apples comparison. I don't think it's necessarily fair, but there's a big but here, big French but. I don't know how to say. Sorry, Nistan. I don't know how to say but in French, but there's a big one. Their models, as far as I could see, and I did some research, they have they say this runner age thing that they have is powered by a specialized LLM, specialized optimized for function calling for 2 billion params. So whatever we see on the left is not like Claude, which whatever, we don't know the size of Claude. This is like a 2 billion parameter model. And integrates in the VLM of a 3 billion parameter model to see, understand, and interact with the graphical and text interface. Let's look at another example here. They're basically browsing the web and like doing extraction. And yeah, I don't think you guys can see it. Maybe like this. It's literally, they're going to Wolfram Alpha and extracting and doing this task. They're basically asking Wolfram Alpha to do a task. So it's not like they're just reading from things. They're finding input and they're like plugging things in there and like responding, reading from the output from Wolfram Alpha as well. So this runner age thing actually performs tasks on the web, extracts information back way faster than cloud computer use. Which cloud computer use, let's give it its place. We were very excited when it came out, and it does very well for just an adjustment of Claude. And they are showing immense differences in like 5 steps, and we're still waiting for cloud computer use to like try to figure this out. So
did you say it's a separate 2B model and then there's another?
That's
3B?
what I found from them. Yeah. They said that they have, let me see if I can find the previous announcement. Yeah.
Two models, Vision and the LLM.
Yeah, the previous announcement that they have that we kind of missed from last week, introducing Studio, a platform for developers to run automations at scale, Runner Age, the most advanced agent to date. That's what they said last year. Powered by specialized LLM, highly optimized for function calling, 2 billion parameters. It also integrates a specialized VLM, 3 billion parameters, to perceive, understand, and interact with graphical and text elements. Delivers the state-of-the-art on the public Web Voyager framework. And this is the graph that they have. Web Voyager, they have Runner H01 at 6% maybe, and then Cloud Computer Use at 52, and Agent E, I don't know where is it at, like here. Yeah, so like the size of it is what's the most impressive part.
Yeah, I'd say this is impressive as to what they're doing. We can guess what model they're using, but it doesn't matter all that much. I just want to say that it's not an apples to apples comparison with Claude, because Claude is an entire OS in there, and you can use whatever you want. You can use Blender. It can you can run a virtual box of Windows 95, and it will use that as well. So it's not that's not a pure example. Whereas in this one, I'm assuming they do need access to the document object model, the DOM of the website to be able to navigate it. But the results do indeed seem impressive, and it's at a size that you can run it you can run on your own. So
because if they're measuring steps and speed, right? Actually, I think Anthropic Cloud should probably partner with a company like BrowserBase and just do a demo and then see how close they get instead, because it will skip literally the first 8 steps or something like that, which is all just the OS boot up.
Yeah, this is why I didn't love the comparison specifically. Like, you guys are right. Like, it's running a janky Docker with Firefox, and by the time it loads Firefox, these guys already kind of loaded the website, so it's not necessarily apples to apples. But it looks like those models are tiny compared to Claude, and also they talk about it's beyond optimizing agent performance. They have optimizing web interactions. They engineered Runner Age to handle any web interactions, advancing towards one singular mission, automating the web. So they're focused on web. So Eugene, what you're talking about, browser based with computer use, it looks like this is their focus. Whereas computer use is for computer use generic. This is their focus for web interactions. So I guess what I'm saying is it's exciting. They raised a boatload of money. The folks behind there, they seem very, very well adept. I know they're based in France, Wolfram. I don't know, Wolfram. You're asking if I'm sure they're friends. Yeah, they're based in France, and yeah, we'll see. They're waitlisted. I haven't tested them out. I know that some folks collaborated with them already and posted some threads. So we'll see if I get access to this. I'll tell you guys, and we'll play with it. Absolutely, definitely exciting in the world of agents. I think that this is it from big companies, folks. What do you think? Anything else from big companies? Nothing from Google after the releases of last week, where they kind of reclaimed the throne. Hopefully, they're getting their deserved breaks and relaxing. I don't think like this week was fairly chill. Probably the next week they're gonna come back with a vengeance. Next week there's like the AWS reinvent. Maybe Amazon will come with something, and then the week after is gonna be new RPS. Maybe some folks are waiting for that. I think that this is it in big companies. Let's move on to vision and video, and then I think we're at folks. I think we're at time. I got too excited that we have like a bunch of other things to talk about. So let me maybe recap on our Thanksgiving super quick. The stuff that we didn't get to, just to recap super quick. We didn't get to, but just to tell you guys what else we didn't get to. Runway specifically. Oh yeah, I have to show this, not to talk about this, just visually show this beautiful thing. If I can click this, thing, yeah. Runway introduced an expand feature. If you guys haven't seen this, it's really fun to just watch. Let me just mute this. Basically, what you see above and below, Runway introduced an expand feature where you take a video and you give this model, and the model tries to predict in different ratio what's above and below this video. So basically, if you give a video in the widescreen format, 16:9, and you could try to turn it into 19:6 format, and so the model will try to fill in the frames. The generative video model will try to fill in the frames of what's above and below. So what we're looking at in the video on the screen is kind of like Lord of the Rings scene where Legolas rides one of those like elephant-looking thingies, and basically the model tries to fill in the just the frames from above and below. It just looks a little bit. It's funny looking, but it's kind of like looks interesting. So this is like one expand feature, and the other one is they released an actual image model from Runway, which kind of looks interesting. It's called a frames, and it's specific for image generation for world building. And Comfy UI desktop launched. I think that's pretty much it. Folks, it's time to say thanks because it's Thanksgiving. I just wanted to start, but I wanted to hear from you as well. My biggest thanks this year goes to, first of all, everybody who tunes into ThursdAI, everybody who comes into the community, everybody who provides comments and shares and shares with their friends and listens the second huge thanks goes to all of my co-hosts here, Wolfram, Yam, Nistin, LDJ, Jun Yang, who joined us, Eugene just joined us as well, Tafrir joined us from time to time, like a bunch of other folks. Huge thanks to you for like being here from like week to week for more than like almost, we're coming up on 2 years. And I think the third thanks goes to Jensen for the GPUs that he provided for all of us to enjoy those like amazing cornucopia of AI features around the world. Just open up the mics and feel free to join the festivities, even though, I don't know if any of you celebrate Thanksgiving necessarily, but yeah, what are you guys thankful for before we wrap up? Let's do the Thanksgiving roundup.
I'm giving thanks to open models.
Let's go.
Yeah, proving that you do not need billions of dollars to catch up with GPT-4, despite what the big labs will say. The open teams keep going, keep bringing open models to the masses.
Yeah, we had Thanksgiving last month in Canada. I would like to give thanks to two particular creators, Maziar Panahi and Bartowski. Each have over 1,000 models and quants that they release, and also Mr. Adembacher, I probably mispronounced that, was over 5,000 quantizations of models. This is the stuff I use every day, and I tell other people. So whenever something new comes out, I always expect them to have a good, well done quantization ready for others to use. So, and they just do this as volunteers. Like, I don't even think they're part of none of them are part of like even a big corporation or have high salaries. Like they literally just do it as volunteers. So yeah, I want to give thanks to those people in particular, and everybody else here, and all the people on Discord as well who sit around and help you correct stuff. But yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, I have 3. The first is to Alex for the podcast, because it's amazing to be here. It's my way to keep up with the stuff I can't keep up with. So thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this. Thank you very much. And the second is to the whole community of AI people, especially those who release all the stuff in the open, but everybody who contributes, everybody who does a good thing about it. I think it is furthering humanity. So thanks for that. And the third is a thanks to every reasonable person who is not going to insults or stuff, but is open-minded and seeing that we are all in the same boat and we are all trying to make the world a better place in our different ways, and for being accepting and understanding of this. In these times, I think it's very important to keep an open mind.
Oh, yeah, just really quickly to add on, the biggest thanks I think for this year goes to the DeepSeek and Quant teams for just carrying up everybody else when we kind of stalled on progress. They kept it up to like actually democratize the models for you to actually have this piece of artificial intelligence and own it and control it and be loyal and make it loyal to you. So yeah, they actually enable people to run fully local models. Like 90% of what I use every day is just completely open source now. And honestly, it would not be there if it wasn't for them. It would probably maybe be like 20-30%. So yeah, they've really carried. Like that's a gaming term, like someone who carries the team when the team is down. Like they have really carried. So yeah.
Go ahead.
To Jansen for the GPUs, and
for
to
GPUs,
everybody else on Hugging Face, especially people collecting and releasing datasets. I think they're not getting enough credits because you can't just use the dataset without training a model. There is an effort to until you appreciate the dataset, but they make it possible. Everything else.
Yeah. Last thing that I have to, and like this is not because I have to, but honestly, folks, huge thanks to Weights and Biases for all of this. Honestly, I wouldn't have been able to do this as my job without a few folks in Weights and Biases. So thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Lavanya. Thank you, a bunch of folks in Weights and Biases who realized this could be a part of my actual day-to-day and bringing you news from Weights and Biases, but also like promoting some of the stuff. Many of the labs, if not most of the labs that we talk about, are using Weights and Biases to bring us the open source, but also the closed source LLMs in the world. I couldn't be more happy and like be in a better place to bring you the news, but also like participate behind the scenes in building some of these things. With that, thank you to all of you. Hopefully you go and enjoy some of the rest of your holiday. Those of you who celebrate, those of you who don't celebrate. This is, I think, the first ThursdAI in a while that we didn't have any breaking news. I'm kind of itching to press it anyway, but we didn't have any breaking news. But hopefully we'll have some next week. There could be some news next week. We'll see. With that, thank you everybody who joins. Go and enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you here next week as always. Bye everyone. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
And we have
nice
a
day.